Okay, second half of turn 3 for King David. Just got rid of another action phase. And, well, let's take a look. Aramea. First of all, the Moabs opened up with the royal death counter. I guess news of David's death has finally arrived. But Aramea continues to push forward, taking some of the Tyrian territories. They left one unit out exposed, which Tyre was able to destroy on their turn. But they also slipped down and through and took the crossing of the Jordan, allowing them now to begin attacking Judah. Granted, they have very, very few forces there, and this could be a risky maneuver, but they feel Judah is their main opponent. If they can, along with the Philistines and perhaps and definitely Moab in this case, help cut Judah down and maybe even divide them up among them, that can only be good for Aramea. Of course, Aramea will then become the country everyone will be fighting against. But destroying Judah seems like a wise move at this point. And this is what's interesting, because without the auto victories, wiping out a leader or a potential leader or a once leader makes more sense than turning against the next leader. So here's the situation. If I were playing this all the way through without the auto victories, probably Aramea, the Philistines, and Moab would divide up Judah and destroy it. Is that bad? Is that good? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know if that's more historical or less. But in terms of gameplay, the mechanism of the auto victory means that, well, if Judah falls behind and it looks like Aramea is close to the auto victory, the entire alliance structure will shift against Aramea. And that's a different situation, you know, a very different situation in terms of how the game was going to play out. I don't know which is better. I really don't. There are positives to both, but by better here I mean more historical. Is it more historical for someone to be carved up completely with the thought of, well, when it's down to the two of us, one of us is guaranteed a victory kind of thought? Or is this balance of power game actually more historical? And I think it depends on the era. Here I don't know enough. Anyway, moving onward, Judah was frozen, of course. Moab moved forward here and continued to pull back, letting the Arameans take that crossing. They don't have any real beef with them, as long as their little city here of Medina isn't taken. Tyre continued to support the Moabs by not advancing into their territory. It's looking risky for them, though. They look like they're in a lot of trouble, and they may move against the Moabs simply to relieve pressure on Judah so that maybe it can take an attack against one of Tyre's enemies. And then finally the Philistines, well, they still don't have any units. Don't you love car alarms? Alright, 2 resource phases in a row, bang bang. I did them concurrently because, well, nobody had an event to play on either one of them, so here's what we see. A lot of resources out there, obviously. Big money, though, still Aramea. They made 150 total. I don't know what they netted. They netted around 140. They were pretty low. Moab's not bad at 64. Judah is actually falling behind. Problem is, of course, Moab is quite far from where the battle lines are. Judah is right next to Moab there. But this may take a lot of pressure off the other opponents of Judah, most especially the Philistines, who have a lot of rich territory they could regain. All right. Well, we're on the build phase. Let's see what everybody does with all that money. After the build phase, Aramea recovered some of their forces, but here's the problem. Everybody's paying a premium because they don't have food. Actually, the Philistines had a food, which they'll trade it. And there's 2 harvests coming up, so it's kind of painful to spend a lot on your troops if you don't really have to. Now, Judah felt they really had to. Moab kind of feels it has to get some troops down here. Philistines only bought 1. They think that's enough to face what Judah's got up against them until maybe the next build phase, which hopefully will be which will be after these harvests, but it could be a long time after. No idea from the track itself. Tyre also held off from buying more troops. They paid their maintenance costs, but they couldn't buy a lot with what they've got, and they think that the fortifications at Tyre might be sufficient to drain the Arameans down heavily so that maybe those decent harvests can bring a bigger force into play and, turn the tide, regaining some of the gains they currently are holding, which they're going to lose very quickly. Of course, they're not going to lose them before the harvests. They're going to get the extra food from those territories, which is kind of cool. Now we're on an event phase, and people are going to get a chip each. Now entering the double harvest, which I'll again take care of all at once, Aramea played a decreased harvest on Tyre just to reduce their ability to build troops even further than it already is. They're hoping to pretty much have them wiped out by the end of next turn. And that bad harvest killed Tyre. They're only at 6 food after the harvest. All this area is all 1-point areas. They were worthless. The Philistines aren't doing too much better. They didn't have a chit against them, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 food is all they pulled in. And now they don't have a lot of resources, but then when we look compared to the big guys, right? I mean, Judah pulled in 60 food. Moab even pulled in 38. And Mighty Ammon, 110 food. They're beginning to look pretty scary, but the problem is that automatic win factor. And it's kind of hard because I can't decide, am I playing for the automatic win or not? I'm kind of playing for now, but thinking I might extend the game afterwards to see what happens on the long-term victory as well. It's an interesting concept because you can almost have 2 winners to a game by doing that. You can say, okay, if you win the automatic victory, you win. But someone else can still kind of come in second with the long-term victory. And if you played something along these lines, if you played, say, the Napoleonic period, Napoleon historically won the automatic victory probably sometime before the invasion of Russia, or maybe even during, although the Spanish Revolt kind of was a problem at that point. But for the whole campaign, yeah, he was eventually defeated. And that, it's kind of interesting to judge both at the same time. It's possible to win the automatic victory and then just keep steamrolling, right? All right. Anyway, this one's going up.